This is Studio 809.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to about everything, really. My social media, my photography website, our other podcast, all that kind of stuff is at hikingbob.com. Joining me today is my co-host, Wild Westendorf. Hi, Kevin.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and my website, wildwestendorf.com.
Great, Kevin. Good to have you on. Just before we were talking, before we started recording, you mentioned you were out hiking in North Cheyenne Canyon today. We are recording this on Easter Sunday, so happy Easter to everybody. It's going to be a couple of days after Easter, obviously, when this goes out. But I hope you had a good Easter, Kevin. That was a good. The weather in Colorado looks magnificent
It's
when we're
been
recording
great,
this.
yeah.
After some pretty miserable weather there, it looks great. Here in Arizona, I'm here for a few more weeks. I've been here for about 6-7 weeks now. We're having hot weather. We've been in the hundreds. It's in the 90s today, hotter than it should be by today, about good 10 degrees. But it's been nice. We haven't had much rain, which we need rain pretty desperately here. We had some a few days ago, but we need some rain pretty desperately here. But it's been nice weather, and I'm getting out. I'm trying to hike in new places. It's easy, as Kevin, you know, when you're home and it's easy to fall into the rut of hiking the same old places you've always hiked to because they're convenient. You know where they're at. But trying to find new places to hike is always something. So I'm trying to find some new places to hike in the next few weeks I have left here. I think I'm going to go down towards Tucson and maybe do a little more hiking down that area. I don't get to go down there that often. It's 100 miles away, and it doesn't sound like much, but it's 100 miles on I-10. And if you've ever driven that 100 miles on I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson, it's like what's that Mel Gibson movie?
Mad Max.
Mad Max. It's like Thunderdome driving on I-10 sometimes. So it's like, if I can avoid I-10, I'm going to do that. I-17 between here and Flagstaff is even worse. Oh my God, is it terrible? Just like Thunderdome trying to drive around there. So, but I'm going to try and get down that way. Of course, if you go on weekends, the parks are busier.
Oh yeah.
I guess it's a pick your poison kind of thing. But speaking of new places, let's talk a little bit about my latest adventure, which I've been so excited about. And I posted this. By the time you're getting this is all over my social media. I posted a 9-minute video on, which sounds like a long time, but bear with me. It's actually a lot of fun. A video on YouTube, and I've linked that to all my social media. It's easy to find all of this stuff. And I'm going to update my photography website. We'll talk a little bit about why that's been kind of a pain in the neck for about the last 24 hours. But in any case, I got to go to Monument Valley. Now, if you know where Monument Valley is, the Utah-Arizona border splits it right in half. Some of it's on the Utah side, some of it's on the Arizona side. Both states claim it all. I think Arizona claims it more than Utah claims it. It is a beautiful, iconic place. It is these great big formations. Kevin, you've been there, right? I think you've been there.
No, I haven't actually.
You haven't. You must go. Everybody, in my opinion, should see Monument Valley once in their lifetime. If you've ever appreciated an old John Wayne movie, a Western, or an old, you don't even have to go back that far. They're still making movies there. If you've seen the Forrest Gump movie where he's looking down that road that he's running on, and behind him you see these formations, that's Monument Valley. It's a beautiful, iconic place. I have been there a bunch of times. It's on native tribal land. They run it. They do a very good job of running it. But there are parts of it that you cannot get to without hiring a native guide. I visited one of those places the last time I was here a couple of years ago. It was a place called Teardrop Arch, where I went and shot. You shoot pictures through this teardrop-shaped arch, and the monuments, the formations are right behind it. A really great shot. Wasn't very expensive to hire a guide. It was a short trip up there. I hiked up there. Well, we drove up, hiked a short distance to get to it. They let me spend a couple hours there. And it's a great, great place. But there's one spot there I've been wanting to take pictures of, and it's a place called Hunts Mesa. and it's a big, broad, flat mesa, and it's above Monument Valley. So you get there, and you look down at Monument Valley, laid out in front of you, all the formations. And I've seen pictures from there before, but I've never been there because you have to hire a guide, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck to get to it. I joked around with our driver. I was kidding, of course, that my kidneys weren't bleeding before I got up there, but they were sure bleeding after I got up there. It wasn't that bad, but it was a rough, rugged ride. You cannot drive. You used to be able to drive up there on your own with a guide. They no longer allow that, mostly because people were taking what I like to call their pavement princess 4x4s. People would buy these $100,000 SUVs and afraid to scratch them or dent them or anything. What do you think you bought that for? So now you can't do that. You have to go. We used an ATV and a pickup truck. We would have normally used 2 ATVs, but it was a photography outing, and we had so much camera gear, there was no way we were going to do that. And we also camping gear because we camped out there overnight, which also complicated things. I will say this, the pickup truck driver driving on a road normally suited for ATVs didn't put a scratch or a dent in that pickup truck. And I shot a lot of video of him. I was in the ATV, a lot of video of this driver just on these incredibly hard rock crawling places. And it was just a really cool trip. Anyway, so a photographer friend of mine, Jason Fazio, who I hang around with a lot in Colorado, who lives near Colorado Springs, and another photographer, Eric, who lives up in Woodland Park, Eric Wieland. They put together this trip. They invited people to go with them. It was kind of expensive, not on their part. It costs a lot to hire these guides to take you up there, especially they have to spend the night with you. It's not like they drop you off and say, we'll see you tomorrow and give you a ride down. They have to be there the entire time. So you're paying them for their time, even though they just bring you up there. I mean, we were responsible for our own, Eric and Jason provided the food, and we had to bring our own snacks, and they provided tents and stuff. But we got up there, we rode this rugged 4-wheel drive ride up there, got there in the afternoon. It took about an hour or more to drive up there, and we stopped a couple of times to take pictures and stuff along the way, and I was shooting video. But it is such a stunning view. And we had, by the way, bad weather the night before into that morning up until about noon. It was raining. I said we needed rain. The one day we have rain is the day before we're supposed to go up there. And Monument Valley is about a 5-hour drive from Phoenix. So I actually went up. I was going to leave about 4 a.m. the morning of, get there by noon. And I decided the day before, with the weather looking bad, I didn't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive up there. I went up the night before, stayed in the town of Cayenta, which is about 20 minutes south of Monument Valley. Drove up there. Nice weather, but then it rained all night. And it was raining the next day, and it was cold. The one cold day of the month, it was cold and windy. But nonetheless, by the time we got up there, it was gorgeous. It was still cold, but it was beautiful conditions. I shot a bazillion pictures. When it got dark, it was a full moon. We tried taking shots of the area that are just lit by the full moon. You know what they end up looking like? They end up looking like daylight pictures. So, okay. Nonetheless, we all camped out for the night. We got up the next morning. We shot sunrise. We drove back. We took a slightly different route back. We saw an arch that's hidden away that you can't get to because, again, this is all on native tribal land. You can't go anywhere on there without a guide, and you would not know where this arch was unless you knew where it was. You couldn't find it. It was a great trip. And then I shot one picture on the way out. I saw these two rock formations, and it wasn't a great daytime picture, but I ended up making that into a black and white and posted that. People love the black and white.
Oh yeah.
They said it was something similar to what Ansel Adams would do, which I think is high praise, and I'm not sure I'm quite that good, but hey, I'll take it. It's nice. I'm doing more stuff like that in black and white, and I've just hung up some more black and whites here in our place down in Phoenix. Anyway, if you've never been to Monument Valley, and you got to want it. It's 20 miles off of Highway 160. As you go through, you come out of Four Corners. It's an hour or two out of Four Corners. You come out of Four Corners, you take 160 headed towards Flagstaff. And if you've never been there, if I'm within 100 miles of there, I'll go through Monument Valley. I just love it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful spot. You can see a good portion of it from Highway 163 that runs from there into Utah. But if you want to drive around it, you can drive around. There's a loop you can drive. You do have to pay at the the tribal park to do that. It's not cheap. It's not terrible. But I think it's something everybody should see once, especially if you appreciate the grandeur of the Southwest, if you appreciate those old movies that John Ford looked at and said, this is a place we should shoot. It's funny, the place gets misused a lot. If you have seen the movie My Darling Clementine, which goes way back, Henry Fonda is in it. That takes place in Tombstone. Tombstone is on the far south end of Arizona. It's a good 500 miles away from Monument Valley, which is on the far north end of Arizona. But they use some scenes they shot in Monument Valley that supposedly take place in Tombstone, even though they're 500 miles apart, because it's that iconic of a place that brings up the Old West. So anyway,
yeah,
I went and did that. It was tremendous. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to go. I'm so glad I did go. I'm so glad I got the pictures I got. They are going to go on my photography website. It is just beautiful. If you go to Moab in Utah, it is a couple hour drive south of there. Not a hard drive. It's all highway. You go through the town of Mexican Hat, which is like the last town you go through in Utah. And if you come out of Mexican Hat and you go a few miles south, you'll see that spot that was used in Forrest Gump, where you're looking down the road and the road just goes straight ahead, and then there's a little bend in it way in the distance, and in the distance you see these rock formations. That's Monument Valley. That's where it was shot from. Everybody now gets that picture. I was getting that picture even before Forrest Gump. In any case, everybody gets that picture, and it's a really cool shot. And if you do it early in the morning on a weekend, you can stand right in the middle of the road and get that picture. If you get hit by a car, don't blame me. Watch for cars, obviously. Don't be dumb. Watch for cars. But in any case, it was a really, really fun trip. I'm so glad I went, and I'm glad I was invited. It cost me a little bit of money. It was an unplanned thing. I've got other trips coming up, as you guys have heard me talk about, to Acadia National Park and to Costa Rica. It was an unplanned trip. Fortunately, my trip budget allowed me to squeeze this one in. So fortunate to do that.
Yeah, so, I thought the photos were incredible especially because I've never seen photos of Monument Valley from that angle, because I've seen a million photos of them, but it's from the ground level, not above. So it just looked really, really impressive.
Thank you. There were some people who asked me if I was able to use a tripod. Obviously, I did. I guess there are short, like 3 or 5 hour ATV trips you can take to go and see this place, Hunts Mesa. But those trips, and our guide was telling us, are very short. You only spend a few minutes at each place, so they don't allow you to bring a tripod because A, they don't have a lot of room, and B, you're not going to have that much time to set up a tripod, get a picture. It's like jump out with your cell phone, take a picture, get back in. They obviously don't cost nearly as much as a trip I took where we were up there for an overnight. So we were fortunate that this was intended as a photography trip, and the guides know where everything is, and they're really good. We had a great time, great company. We just a really, really good time. With that, I urge everybody to go to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Hiking Bob, you'll find it. But if you go to my social media, and I'll include links in the show notes, it'll take you right to the YouTube video. I am doing more YouTube stuff as a side note, by the way, anyway, including more YouTubes of some of my better hikes or my more interesting hikes. Some of the hikes are kind of mundane. I'm not going to make a YouTube video out of every single hike I do, but some of the hikes I've done here, Horton Creek, and some of those other hikes I've done here, I'm doing some video on. So I am trying to beef up my video production. Kevin, next time you're out this way, though, seriously, if you end up in Flagstaff or you're going to Moab or Zion. It's a little bit of a detour for Zion, but if you're out this way, or to Page, I definitely would suggest try to, if nothing else, just drive by it. But you're going to want, I know you're going to want to go through there. There used to be, and I think it's still there, there's the two rock formations called the Mittens, which are big formations, big bluffs, and they have what looks like a thumb on them. So they call them the Mittens, the left and right mitten. There used to be a trail, and I've hiked it, that was open to the public all the way around the left mitten. You would have to pay the admittance fee to get into the park, but you can also do this hike. If you get a chance to do that, by all means, go do that, because that was a lot of fun. So you get a little bit, I think it's like a 3-mile hike around it or something, not very long. But to walk around it and look at all the different land, I took my camera with me and I remember shooting all kinds of pictures of it. Definitely well worth it. If you're somebody listening to this and you have an RV or a camper, there's a KOA on Highway 163, almost right across from Monument Valley, but there's also at the Goulding's Lodge, which is an iconic, very famous place on the west side of Monument Valley. Is not run by the tribal nation. It's privately owned. They have a really nice campground there, but they have a lodge, and you can go, they have a lot of attractive. You can go there and see where John Wayne stayed in that lodge. That's how far back it goes when he was filming one of the movies there. So it's a pretty cool spot. So if you get a chance to go there.
Okay, because I was about to ask if there are trails to hike in that area. So okay, cool.
And I'm sure there are a bunch of other ones, but I know I did that one, in the tribal land. That's about the only place that you can go in the tribal land on foot without acquiring a guide. So you can do that. It's really a lot of fun. There's also a hotel on the tribal park. I forget what it's called, the View Lodge or something. And basically all the windows look right out over all these rock formations.
Oh, cool.
It is also obscenely expensive to stay there, and it takes about a year to get a reservation there. So you can stay there, but boy, is it expensive. So
I bet, yeah.
Just be aware of that. Anyway, it was a great trip. It's going to be the highlight of this trip down here this spring. And I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to, the organizer said, we're arranging another one. I said, I can't afford to do that often. I don't know when I can afford to do that again, especially as an unplanned thing. Not only was it the cost of going up there, but I spent the night in Kayenta. I got like the last room available in Kayenta. Literally, I made a last minute decision to go up the day before instead of going up the morning of, and found a room, not terribly expensive and a nice place, but there's not a lot of lodging available there. And I found like the last room and was able to,
nice.
and I basically jumped in the car about 3:00 in the afternoon, 3:30, and drove up there. Like I said, 5 hours of driving, through Flagstaff to get up there. Not a hard drive, but it was a bit of a drive to get up there. So I was back in Phoenix almost exactly 48 hours later and 600 miles of driving back and forth to do it, but well worth it.
Well, I see that Kayenta has a Burger King, so that's good.
They have a Burger King. Was there a McDonald's there? I think there was a McDonald's. I ate breakfast the morning of at a little, locally owned place nearby. There's a supermarket there. Not a lot there. It's basically like a crossroads town. People pass through it to go up to Monument Valley or to keep going over to Tuba City, which there's even less there. And then, you're still a couple hours from Flagstaff or come Page, and not too far from the south rim of the Grand, probably again, an hour and a half from the south rim of the Grand Canyon, the east entrance to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So it's a stop along the way, a couple of gas stations there, that kind of a place. In and of itself, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, there's not much in Kayenta. Tribal government has some offices there and police department and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just a place people camp, do like I did, stay for the night before going to Monument Valley or pass through there on the way to points east or west from there. I think Four Corners is still a couple of hours from there, so that's a bit of a trip. Kevin, highly recommend it. Maybe you and I should do a road trip out here someday, and we'll go and check it out and see.
Oh yeah.
See what it's like. I think, like I said, you could stand there, and it's just, for me, it's just very awe-inspiring just to stand there and just sit back and look at it and think about all those westerns you've ever watched, and some old, some not so old, and just sit there and look at that. And there's a thing that occurs there for a couple days, like 2 days in the spring and 2 days in the fall, when those two mitten formations, where the setting sun casts the shadow of one directly on the other one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And like I said, you gotta want it, because and years ago we were staying in Mesa Verde. We were on a vacation, staying in Mesa Verde, a couple hours away, and I knew that this was going to be an evening where the one shadow was going to, as a setting sun, I'm going to put the shadow of one mitten on the other one. And if you look up mitten shadow, you'll see these pictures. So we are hauling butt to get out to Monument Valley, and I'm going to take these pictures, and I'm watching the sun the whole way out there. We pull up into Monument Valley, and there's this overlook. Everybody shoots the same pictures from here. It's like going to Delicate Arch. Everybody shoots the same pictures from the same spot. And I'm starting to take this series of pictures, and the sun is setting, and the mitten shadow is starting to crawl up the other mitten. And then a rainstorm comes through, the clouds block out the sun, and everything goes away. And I missed it. I was so mad. The number of photographers I've talked to who said the exact same thing happened to them is just unbelievable. But a few of them have gotten that picture of the one shadow on the other. But you have got to plan it, be there, and hope that Mother Nature cooperates with you. And
yeah, I'm looking at photos of it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, the mitten shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but only, twice a year is that the sun line up where that shadow falls on the other one. That's my story. That's my big story for today.
That reminds me of in Yosemite, there's an effect that it happens like 1 or 2 days a year where the sun is shining just directly in the right way at a waterfall, and it looks like it's on fire. And I've seen the photos, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's called the Firefall.
Yeah.
Years ago, the Forest Service would actually burn wood at the top of that waterfall and push the burning, flaming wood over the edge in that waterfall to create that visual effect.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, they realized that was pretty dumb. They don't do that anymore, but the sun does hit it right where that water's coming over that very long, and I forget which waterfall that is in Yosemite, and the sun hits it at just the right angle that it looks like the water, looks like a fire. They call it Firefall. I have not been there for that. Some people I know have been. They said it's really pretty fantastic, assuming you don't have cloudy days and the sun doesn't get blocked and you end up with just another waterfall. Nothing, I love waterfalls anyway, but it's pretty cool. But they do have that effect, and it's similar to what happens here in the superstitions, where we have a thing called the cougar shadow. I shot it 2 years ago, where there's on the face of the superstitions right around the same time this mitten shadow happens in Monument Valley, where the sun hits the rocks in a certain way that it looks like a cougar, like a mountain lion jumping down. It totally does. Yeah, and I shot it. Cool. It's pretty cool. Again, it's spring and summer, right around the solstice, either one, and the sun hits it just right, and it creates a shadow. So there are things. These are Mother Nature's gifts to photographers, I guess. To test the mettle of photographers. Can you be there? Can you get the shot? And is Mother Nature gonna be on your side, or is she gonna decide to ruin it for you like they did for me on the mitten shadow, which I hope to go back and get someday. That's my story. Kevin, how have you been doing? You got any good hikes in or anything?
Last week I did Red Rock Canyon. I did my usual loop, except I decided to diverge it a little bit and make it about 1.5 miles longer. And I think I enjoyed that loop a lot more. And yesterday I hiked with my friend and her dogs in Garden of the Gods. And we had planned like a couple mile hike to walk the dogs, but we haven't seen each other in a while, so we just had a lot to catch up on. So we ended up doing this giant loop all the way around the park that was like almost 6 miles. And today I hiked in the Daniels Pass Trail and Sweetwater Canyon and North Cheyenne Canyon, and I love that loop. But when was that built? In 2022 or I'm trying to remember. It's newer, but
It's been within the last, I want to say 6 years. I think that's about right. 5 or 6 years. The old Daniels Pass Trail had been there for a bazillion years.
Oh yeah.
Grossly unsustainable and dangerous, actually, to a point. But yeah, all those trails, Sweetwater Canyon, are within the last several years. They haven't been there that long. I will say that I was on the TOPS working committee because we were funding part of that. So I was part of that. Well, I shouldn't say part of the discussion with that. So it's been within the last, I would say, no more than 6 years. I don't think it's been any longer than that, and that might even be a little long. But yeah, mostly that too. Did you hike up Daniels Pass, Sweetwater, and then hike back down, or did you take Gold Camp Road all the way around and
So
then come back through there?
I started with Gold Camp Road, then took the Daniels Pass down, hit Sweetwater, and I did like the big loop there, and then got back onto Daniels Pass, and I took that to the Bruin Trail, and then I hiked that back up to Upper Columbine, back to my car.
Yeah, I usually do it the other way, but I usually park down by the Bruin Trail, hike up the Bruin Trail, Daniels Pass, and depending on how far I want to go, sometimes I'll just take Daniels Pass straight over to Gold Camp Road, hike back down, go over the tunnel, and just work my way back through the Four Corners parking lot, and then come back down to the Bruin Trail. That alone is about a 4-ish mile hike, and if you do the big loop, the big Sweetwater loop, your hike was probably a good 7 miles. Did that sound about right?
It was a little over 6.5 miles.
Okay.
I do have a controversial statement to make.
Okay.
After years of hiking in the canyon, I don't want to disparage anybody, but I am not a fan of dirt bikes that are not on Gold Camp Road. And I believe they're not allowed on a lot of the trails in the canyon. I'm not entirely sure, but it just, they're loud, they're noisy, they like pass by and you just smell gas for a while. It just seems a little unnecessary. I get it on Gold Camp Road. It's a dirt road, but I'm just not a fan of them on the trails, though.
Well, motorized vehicles are not allowed on any trails in any of the city park systems. So if they were on the Daniels Pass Trail, they're not allowed on any of those trails. And that's not controversial. If people are doing that, they're jerks. And they shouldn't be doing that. It's very clearly stated at every entrance that motorized vehicle, and they know that. Those people who know that are being jerks on purpose. They're not allowed to do that. They know they're not allowed to do that. And they're not part of the very responsible motorized community. Now, I will, as a caveat, I will say that the Captain Jack's Trail is a motorized trail, but that's technically out of the city park system. It's technically in the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service land, although you access it from the city park. The Captain Jack's Trail, dirt bikes are allowed on. That trail going up to St. Mary's Falls, I believe, is open to motorized vehicles because it's in the Forest Service. Like you said, Gold Camp Road is a road. Motorized vehicles are allowed on there, not cars. Cars are not allowed on there, but motorized vehicles like dirt bikes and I believe ATVs are allowed on there, but not street, not cars. But yeah, if they were on one of the Sweetwater trails or something, they're not allowed on there.
Yeah. And thanks for saying that, Bob, about like it's not representative of all folks who ride bikes or dirt bikes. Like every group is going to have that small group of people that just violate the rules and such. But yeah, it just I saw a lot of them today, and I was just kind of like come on. I'm not sure if it's like a big group of friends or something, and they were just kind of like far apart. But yeah,
jerks running packs.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Real quick for people who subscribe to my newsletter. I'm always telling people subscribe to my newsletter. You haven't gotten a newsletter in a couple weeks, and I will get one out. By the time you hear this, should be another one out. And here's what happened. I use a free service at MailChimp, and there are paid tiers. They're not cheap, but I guess it's a double-edged sword. the good news is I have so many people who get the newsletter. The bad news is I have so many people who get the newsletter that I cannot do a weekly newsletter as part of their free service anymore. So they let me send so many out, then they cut me off for the month, and then I have to wait a couple weeks. And I didn't know that, so
okay.
I would space them out or something. So it's April. I'll get a newsletter out. I'm behind, woefully behind. There's been a lot of other things going on around here that have taken some of my time. But the newsletter, I'm trying to find, and what I'm getting at is they want a lot of money to upgrade from free to a paid subscription, and I just simply do not have the budget for it. And I'm trying to find an alternative to it. There are really no decent free newsletter services. If you're aware of one, drop me a line, but there aren't any that I can find. So there hasn't been a newsletter for a couple weeks, and boy, I wish I had, because there's been a lot of stuff going on that I wanted to write about, but I haven't been able to. I am exploring opening a Substack page, and that is a alternative, but I've been looking at it, but there's a learning curve to that I'm still trying to figure out. But I think I may move the newsletter over to Substack. When I do that, I'll let you all know. And that might even happen by the time the newsletter goes out. If not, by the next one, I should have an answer to that. I don't want the newsletter to be less frequently than once a week, because there's so much stuff going on every week that, if I do it every 2 weeks, which I could do with my current plan with MailChimp, it would be an excessively long newsletter. And then I know people only want to spend so much time reading one, and they'd rather digest it in short bits. So I'm thinking about doing a Substack. I've got to learn how to do it, though, to be honest with you. It's different. I think once I figure it out, it'll be like MailChimp. Once I figure it out, it's a smooth workflow, and I save things and just edit them and send them back out. So we'll see what happens with that. But if you've got a newsletter from me and you've been wondering where it is, that's where it is. It ain't there, but should have one out to you pretty soon. And we'll get that taken care of. If you were over the weekend looking for my photography website and we're getting a HTTP error that said you were not allowed on there, that was an issue at the other end, that the company that hosts my photography website, that'll get taken care of pretty soon, but that was another issue. So it's just been one technology challenge after another for me, Kevin. It's just been one thing after another. But hopefully things are getting taken care of. One more thing I want to bring up real quickly. There was a newsletter, and this is another reason why I want to get the newsletter out. There was a news release out last week that Colorado Parks and Wildlife has taken a bigger role in search and rescue operations in the state, but there's also a lot of misinformation going out there. Basically, Colorado Parks and Wildlife is going to handle coordination of large-scale search and rescue operations that may cross jurisdictional boundaries, basically counties, because county sheriffs are responsible in Colorado for search and rescue, or that require additional funding or equipment that a local search and rescue team might need. There's an interagency agreement that's been signed, but I'm trying to get a copy of the actual agreement so I don't have to rely just on their press release about what it says. Unfortunately, people are saying that Colorado Parks and Wildlife is taking over all search and rescue operations, going to kick all these search and rescue teams out, taking them over from the sheriff. The press release clearly states that that's not going to happen, that county sheriffs, as required by statute, which has not changed, are still handling their own search and rescue. And I'll send a link with this to the press release from CPW. County sheriffs are still going to be responsible for search and rescue, and the teams that they designate to do it will be handling that stuff. None of that has changed. So there's a lot of people out there. Now, is this setting things up for CPW to do something later on? Maybe. Some people are worried that that might be it. That's a valid concern. I would hope not. I would hope that this still remains a local thing. I think people like supporting their local search and rescue team.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with it, even though the county sheriffs in Colorado are required by law to provide search and rescue, that doesn't mean they have to fund it. That doesn't mean they staff it. They're just responsible for making sure somebody in their county does it. And in every single case in Colorado, other than maybe in an incorporated city where a fire department might do it, that is handled by volunteers who have to raise their own money, who spend their own money to buy their own equipment, who have to fundraise for it. There is a search and rescue fund in the state that helps, that they can apply to get money. And with the Keep Colorado Wild Pass, a chunk of that money goes to a fund that teams can use to subsidize equipment, either buy equipment or to replace damaged equipment or lost equipment or something like that. And don't forget, search and rescue operations in Colorado are free. So when these search and rescue teams come out, not only are they volunteers who are paying for their own equipment and training, they're also doing it for free. Now, if you end up with an ambulance ride, the ambulance isn't going to be for free. If you end up getting helicoptered out on a medical helicopter, that's not going to be for free. But those people come out to get you and find you are doing it for free. None of that is changing with this intergovernmental agreement that has been signed. But there are a lot of people out there screaming and yelling that CPW is taking things over. In the last couple of years, CPW has become the boogeyman for a lot of things. Not all of it is unwarranted. A lot of it, however, I will say, has been forced upon them. A lot of this comes from the wolf reintroduction that was forced upon them by the voters, that privately, I've been told, CPW wanted nothing to do with it, but now they're forced into handling it and things aren't going the way people who were in favor of the wolf introduction were hoping. A lot of the wolves are dying. They're killing cattle. People predicted that. My personal opinion was it was a stupid thing to do, but CPW was forced by the voters, by the initiative, to be responsible for it. They didn't want anything to do with it. Now when something goes wrong, they get blamed for it. They're getting blamed for something they didn't want. So they unfortunately are becoming the boogeyman for things. I do have a beef with them about their latest thing, which is to charge out-of-state license plate holders more money to enter a state park, even though they
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I wrote an article about it in the bulletin. They forced that through, and I argued against it because they are basing it solely on the license plate of the car. So if you're a Colorado resident and you're in a rental car for some reason, they're going to charge you 50% more to go into a state park on a day pass. They don't care if you can show them that you have a driver's license or something. Your license plate is out, or you're driving, say you have a visitor coming and you're taking their car to go to a park, you're a Colorado resident, they don't care. They're going to charge you 50% more. I think this is horribly, and they couldn't justify why they're doing it, except that they could.
I've got friends who will rent cars for road trips around the state, just so it's less wear and tear on their own car. Or their own car is getting older and stuff, and they don't want to do it like an 800-mile trip around the state. Yeah, I didn't know about that. That sounds like a terrible idea.
My argument would be if you're a Colorado resident and you go to a Colorado state park and they say that, and you don't have, well, even if you don't have if you don't have a Keep Colorado Wild Pass, it's only valid for the car you own. If they want to charge you more, I would insist that show them your driver's license. Say, I'm a Colorado resident and I'm not paying 50% more, and see what they say. I want people to push the issue because I think this is a bad idea. The Colorado laws have laws for determining what makes you a resident, but CPW, when they proposed this, explicitly stated they didn't care. They were going to base it solely on their license plates. I think this is a stupid idea. I will preface that by saying other states do charge out-of-state visitors more for their state park fees, but these are also states where their tax money supports their state parks. So the taxpayers in that state are paying to support their state parks. So they're going to charge out-of-state visitors a little bit more money. I'm fine with that. In Colorado, there are no taxes used to fund the state parks. So an in-state visitor is no more of a burden, or an out-of-state visitor is no more of a burden on a state park than an in-state visitor. Therefore, there's no reason to charge out-of-state visitors more money. And there's certainly a better way to do it than just based on the license plate. Military residents who are in the military, and they may live here for years. Many of them own property or own a house in Colorado, but they are able to keep their out-of-state license plates for their home state. They live here, they pay taxes here. Again, it doesn't matter. They're actual residents of the state because they may have their home state plates on their car, which makes them ineligible for Keep Colorado Wild Pass, are going to be forced to pay more money to enter a state park, even though they live here and have taken up residence here and in the military here. Grossly unfair, horribly stupid idea on CPW's thing. The CPW Commission should be ashamed of themselves for approving it. And the current CPW director, who was the acting director at the time and was the one who endorsed this idea, should be ashamed of themselves. It's nothing more than a money grab, especially when CPW is raking in the money right now with the Keep Colorado Wild Pass. Just a horrible idea, and I'm completely opposed to it. Again, if we were taxpayer-supported CPW, I would have a different opinion. We are not, so this is just a money grab for no other reason, and they basically said no other reason they could. And when I tried to get more information, they expressly refused to let me talk to anybody who had anything to do with this. My guess is they were too embarrassed to do it. Anyway, I'm done ranting. Sorry about that. We kind of went off topic. But that's the latest thing. However, CPW is not taking over search and rescue operations in your county. They are not taking things away from the sheriff. The sheriff is still statutorily responsible for doing it. CPW is not creating search and rescue teams of their own. They may do some of that in their state parks, but even there, they generally rely on the county sheriff's search and rescue team to do that. They are just going to help coordinate when there's a large-scale incident or when they're requested to coordinate larger-scale incidents. That's exactly what this is all about. There's going to be some funding things with distributing money generated from the KCW pass and stuff like that. But that's generally all this agreement is, not like a lot of people are saying is. We'll see what happens. Kevin, I think... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I do want to give a shout-out to two of my friends. I'm not going to name them, but who joined the El Paso County Search and Rescue like a year or two ago. And I didn't realize till I talked to them about it like 2 weeks ago, actually, how much work it is. Like, they're volunteers, yes, but they both have full-time jobs on top of this, and they still have to do a ton of practice runs, a ton of training. They have to, like, it. I just didn't realize there was so much work into it. Like, I know the rescues themselves can be a lot of work, but like they're carrying like 100 pounds of gear, or more, and then they have to do a ton of training on all kinds of stuff, and the practice runs and stuff, like I said. So yeah, like anyone who chooses to volunteer for that is a hero of mine.
It is, and it's like when I was in the fire service. It's training, and it's not like you learn it once and then you're done. You have to learn new things as either new techniques are developed, or new equipment is created, or you learn from somebody else's rescue. Somebody on the other side of the country may have had a rescue, and we all share information, and you learn something that they found out, or a technique they learned, and they're passing it along. And you have to go back and constantly retrain on the basics. We did that in the fire service. How many fires did I put out in my life? I bet several times a year we would go into our specially built burn buildings, we call them, where we had controlled fires, and we would set them on fire and go in there and put a fire out. Did I do a bunch of fires that year? Yeah, but you know what? We still had to do it because new things were learned and new equipment was developed. So it is, for those volunteers who do it, I have never had a beef with the people who are on the ground. They are out there busting their tails.
Oh yeah.
To do this stuff, and they do it for free. I was a volunteer firefighter for many years too. They do it for free, and they have to buy all their equipment. At least when I did it, our equipment was obscenely expensive. the fire department bought the equipment, but we bought a lot of the little stuff that went in our pockets, the tools and stuff. They're buying everything from the ground up. So it is a tremendous amount of work. Nothing but a hats off to them. I, as we know, famously had to have a search and rescue team come get me at one time. And I made a nice donation because I really appreciated that they thought. And they will tell you that it is any search and rescue mission, if they get it done in 6 hours, that's a good day. Some of these things take hours and hours. They have to assemble everybody. They got to come out and find you. And if you're injured, they have to package you and they have to tend to your injuries and then carry you or wheel you out of there. And however many hours it took to get to you, it takes more hours to get you back out. These things take a tremendous amount of time. So these folks who do this, I'm too damn old to do it now, but it's a lot of work. So I have a beef with some. It's like with our park rangers and our game wardens with CPW. I don't have a beef with them. I have a beef with some of their management, but not with them. The people, and they'll always tell you, the people on the ground are doing the hard work, and they're the people that I love. It's management I always have an issue with. I guess I'm anti-management. I'm not a pro-management person, but never. And I will tell people, if you have an issue with some of the stuff I've talked about with CPW, like the fees, do not take it out on the staff at the parks. They're just doing what they're told. These are the folks who are just working. A lot of times, those people at the gates, they're volunteers. Don't give them a hard time. If you don't want to pay it, turn around and go back and do something else. But they are. They're doing the hard work, so don't give them any grief. They're just trying to do the work. Kevin, that's all I have. Do you have anything you want to bring up?
I am having a really fun time planning a few little road trips because I already had my big trip of the year with Las Vegas and Grand Canyon and such, which was, I spent way too much money on that. But last year, as most of you may know, I did a few little long weekend road trips around the state just to do hikes I've wanted to do for years, and I had a blast with it. I got to go see new parts of Colorado, got to check out new towns. I fell in love with the town of Creed. I mean, it's such a cool little it's a tiny town, but it's so small that their biggest restaurant is also a laundromat. I was eating a burger and I just happened to look over and I was like, oh, there's a washer and dryer and there's a bunch of them. And just if you went around this hall, the other half of the building is a laundromat. And so yeah, I'm having a lot of fun right now, just trying to figure out which road trips I want to do for this year, and just take advantage of my work schedule when I get a 3-day weekend or sometimes a 4-day weekend. Because I'm thinking northern New Mexico and in Ouray and Silverton areas, just spots that are a little too far for a weekend trip, but just having that extra day or two off just makes it so much easier to just drive out, hang out, spend a day hiking, and then spend a day like hiking again or driving back and such. Because once it gets past a few hours of a drive, it just doesn't make sense to try and do a few hours of driving and do a giant hike and then a few hours of driving back. Because I've done that before and it's awful. It's awful on the drive back because you're just tired, and there have been many times I've had to pull over into a gas station or something and just close my eyes for a power nap, just to be on the safe side. So because I would get sleepy on the road and stuff. But I found that having a little extra time and being able to have time to explore these towns and stuff too, when I'm relaxing, it just makes the experience so much better.
Cool. If you want to, we seem to have some connection problem here. what I was going to say to Kevin, and he can't hear me right now, although this is recording me, is that I have a book on hiking in New Mexico, so I will send that or let Kevin borrow that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, because the last time I was there, I in Bandelier, I had a blast there.
Well, folks, I think we need to wrap up because for some reason Kevin can't hear me and there was some kind of connection issue. The good thing about the service we're using is it records each of us separately and then uploads it later. We are recording, but Kevin can't hear what I'm saying. So we're going to say goodbye. Thanks everybody for listening. I think we kind of covered everything anyway, but Kevin wants to go hiking in New Mexico. I have a book on trails in New Mexico, so I'm going to lend him that. Maybe he can explore some trails and come back during the course of the summer and tell us all about. So with that, I'll say goodbye, everybody, and thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.